And usually if somebody's fallen off the wagon, I'll have them do ketones for like 3 days. And the 4th day, they are on their own again. And they'll stay steady for a couple of weeks. And then they'll have pasta.
That's why I invested in this company, because I'm actually a co-owner of the business now, because I saw the benefits of having exogenous ketones on a regular basis.
Right.
So if anyone wants to try them, go to ketone.com.
And your brain will use it like that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
super fast.
beautiful.
Crazy fast.
Right. Like,
when I use my ketone reader, it appears in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so.
and their liver then makes more ketones for the next 12 hours. That's the part that I especially for my cancer patients or people who are really, I mean, we need ketones high for they got chemo tomorrow. They can't afford to say, go fast for 48 hours. They don't have the time. So let me help you. And there's nothing better than going into that chemotherapy, going into that radiation with a bunch of antioxidants in circulation coming right out of your liver.
Explain why that matters. I mean, I've got a photo here of
Grandma Rose.
Grandma Rose.
Yeah, that's my mother. Yes, she is the reason I'm here. It's been 5 years. Yeah, 2015, the most stubborn patient walks through the door after 10 years of the best healthcare I know how to give. And she's gray. She looks like a zombie. And she's got big lymph nodes in her neck. You don't need to be a doctor to know that she's dying. Her cancer was back again. And we go to see the oncologist, and he says, you need chemotherapy. And she says, like hell, the last 2 times you did that to me, I didn't know what a sewing machine was. And she made all of my clothes until I was the age of 10. And she's nervous because she has 6 months to live if we don't do something. And she asks me a question that lots of patients have asked me this question, and I just sometimes lie. She said, if it was you, what would you do? That's a really emotional question because there's guidelines, there's the rules, here's what you're supposed to do as the doctor. But when it's your mom, and I saw what chemotherapy did to her. It was terrible. She didn't know the grandkids. It was terrible. And we just got her back to functional again. And so I had been reading about the ketogenic diet on brain injuries, and I'd come across a couple of studies on what it can do to a cancer patient, especially an insulin-driven cancer patient like she was. I said, Mom, do you trust me? I'm like a fool. She said with my whole life. We were standing there in the waiting room of the hospital. One way was to schedule the chemotherapy, and the other way was the front door. I said, Mom, let's get in the car together. I left my car there. I drove to my family farm, which was 100 miles away, and explained to my mother what a ketone was. And her brain wasn't working right, so she didn't quite remember. And we went to the house, we threw out every carbohydrate, and man, at 6 weeks, with chemotherapy, her numbers were supposed to drop by 30% of her cancer. We didn't tell the doctor, we just put her on a ketogenic diet and said, we'll come back in 6 weeks. And so she's walking through the door of the hospital, it's 6 weeks from there, and it is like God has, just the Holy Spirit is rising out of her. She looks amazing. So we go to get her blood drawn. We're sitting in the waiting room for the cancer doctor. And he's my friend. He's known me for 10 years. So I'm scared to tell him what we're about to do. And so we're sitting in there waiting, and they come and draw our blood again, which either means it's really good or it's really bad. And so I get really nervous at the end. We've been in that room for about an hour. And I said, Mom, if he asks you what you're doing, just shut up because I don't know what to tell him. And he walks in, and he slides the piece of paper over to me and says, how did you get her numbers to drop by 70%? There's no drug on the market that would do that.
When you say numbers?
Her cancer numbers. So the chemo would have dropped it by 30%, and the ketogenic diet dropped it by 70% in 6 weeks. And she went from a 70-year-old that looked 100 to a 75-year-old who looked 40.
How did your mother get on from that point onwards?
Yeah, she lived her best life. I mean, I talk about her being from this little town of 800 people. She was Mary Poppins. I mean, like, you don't have a ladies' aid unless you're a part of the ladies' aid in the little small town. You don't have a Sunday school teacher unless you're doing the Sunday school. She was in every aspect of this little town. And she went back to doing all of it. And the pandemic hit, and there's a thrift store that she would volunteer at because, well, it's just a good place to put your time. And the community needs it. And while she was at the thrift store, she got COVID. And her cancer was of the T cells, which means it's going to be the first line of defense against COVID. And her T cells failed.
Some of the science behind this talks about how cancer cells often rely heavily on glucose for energy, a phenomenon known as the Warburg effect. The keto diet drastically reduces carbohydrate intake, forcing the body to produce ketones for fuel instead of glucose. Healthy cells can use ketones efficiently. Many cancer cells cannot. So in theory, keto could starve tumors while supporting normal tissue. And they've done some animal studies that show it can slow tumor growth in some cancers, especially brain cancers like glioblastoma,
yep.
Enhance response to radiation or chemotherapy in certain models and reduce inflammation and oxidative stress, creating a less cancer-friendly environment. However, results are mixed. It may also benefit muscle mass and weight stability in patients losing muscle from treatment, may improve energy levels and mental clarity for some people, and could reduce insulin and IGF-1 levels, hormones linked to cancer growth, may improve quality of life when used alongside standard treatments like chemotherapy. There's also a list of potential risks, which I'll throw up on the screen. And I guess the summary here is keto may help by lowering glucose and insulin, reducing inflammation and supporting metabolism, but it can be risky if it leads to malnutrition, fatigue, or worsen treatment tolerance.
When patients, I get a lot of people calling in saying, is it going to help my cancer? Is it going to help my cancer? And Stephen, I go back to the same thing. The amount of trash that you've not been taking out, we have to start. And when you put them in a ketogenic state, I mean, it really helped her cancer. It really did that Warburg effect. She was a new human within 3 weeks. But she had a lot of trash to take out. This was a year and a half before she got to be the best version of herself. And it really did return and restore her to health. When I look at patients now who say, you know, am I going to reverse my cancer with a ketogenic diet? I'm like, no, but you are going to deal with it a lot better.
I guess that's really what it comes down to. It's like creating a better environment so that if disease does arrive, obviously there is with a lot of diseases, there is a causal element where the way we eat and our lifestyle does create the disease.
Right.
But also when that disease arrives, what environment is your body in to deal with it,
Amen.
to manage it? And I think a lot about this, I think in part because of the pandemic, where for the first time in my fairly young life, I saw that your current physiological environment, so the current state of your body was the single biggest predictor of your outcomes.
Amen. Oh, it was terrible.
So I was like 30 years old and it was like, well, if you're currently overweight, your chance of dying from COVID is really, really high. And so I think that was one of the big sort of protagonists in me getting into shape, was realizing that, disease is probably going to happen to me, but how my body responds to it is to be determined.
And I look at how much, when you're asking an elder person to lose weight, and you just read something really important there, which is when those ketones are in circulation, it is a signaling agent to make more ketones, but it also signals the body to say, don't use muscle mass as a resource, go for the fat. So you can see this protective, you take people through chemotherapy and they have, they shed way too many pounds, right? You put them in a ketogenic state and their muscle mass gets higher preserved, their brain function, their ability to handle this, one of life's most enormous fears is death. And that mood stability and muscle mass protection, because they've got ketones in circulation, boy, that's the gift that they need right now in high numbers.
What is, I've heard you talk about methylene blue for brain health.
Ever done that?
No.
Oh my goodness.
What is it?
Well, it's old as dirt, so nobody's making money on it. But it is a dye, and so if you swallow it, you'll pee blue. But it's also a bridge for how to help mitochondria move fuel along. So one of the worst parts, you asked me this question about supplements, and I really have a tough time saying which supplements actually get to the cells that the patients are looking for. There's a really great fact about methylene blue that when you swallow it, it actually was used for malaria treatment or anti-malaria for soldiers, and they would check compliance by making sure that their pee was blue. But when they died, at autopsy, they had blue brains and blue hearts. It would dye these organs blue. You say, my gosh, that's so strange. But you know what that tells me? It got to the cells that it was advertising it was going to get to. So you look at methylene blue, it's supposed to supercharge your brain. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard this before. So I read about it, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of literature on this. And then I did what I normally do, which is, well, let me take it for a couple weeks. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like, I was floored at how well that little turkey worked. So there's no money to be made on it. It's been around as long as dirt, but it's a powerful brain energizer. Like, it helps the electrical stimulus of the mitochondria in your brain keep energy high. And especially for like high energy brains, I love it. I'm like, I put that in my morning coffee, which is where the April Fool's joke, because nobody can see it in their coffee, but they definitely pee blue.
And do you take creatine as well?
I do take creatine, yeah. Yeah, that's great. That brain supplement is awesome. You do?
I do, but my doctor the other day, I think he was suggesting that I might have taken too much.
Why?
Some liver scan I had, and he was saying that.
Liver scan or kidney scan?
Kidney scan.
Kidney scan. So that's a trick. Don't fall for that. I mean, I've done a couple of big shows on this where creatine is what you're going to measure kidney function with. When your doctor checked your kidneys, he probably had you pee in a cup and check your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's looking at what did you pee out and how clean is your blood. That's what kidneys do.
He just did a blood test.
Okay. Well, even the blood test, the trash was looking like it was a little higher because the trash we're measuring is creatine, creatinine, and which is made from your supplement. So you put the supplement in and it looks like there's more trash around, but that's just the supplement. It's falsely elevated. It's not true. Your kidneys did not get hurt by that. I answer this question probably 30 times a week. I have a standard email saying, here's what happened. Don't measure that. There's other ways he could have measured your kidney that would not have been manipulated by that supplement. What it does for brain function, especially if there's any ADHD, man, they love it. They just focus for a long period of time. I mean, it's got other great findings like how often do you fly over to London?
I fly a lot.
Yeah, that's the best part about it, is that the jet lag part of it, there's really good studies on this. Like, your reset of sleep is going to be augmented if you take like 20 grams of it after the flight.